Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Barber from Bigfoot's Barber Shop. Once again, you have found your way into the darkness of the Fox Den for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Absolutely delicious. Thank you for allowing me to feed and replenish lost calorie sources. Without further ado, it is time for Bigfoot's Barber Shop and StarFox to take a walk into the darkness known as the Dogman.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf, and everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, yes, once again, you have found your way around the late night fire to join the Midnight Society as we burn the timber in an attempt to figure out what is occurring across the globe with missing people and the strange Dogman phenomenon. Once again, Bigfoot's Barber Shop has also made his way through the darkness and the fog and the dense forest to join us. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm over from turkey and stuffing. Still, you get two people and a 22-pound bird, and that's a lot of food to put away.
That's classic right there. And great stuff, man. How was your get-together? Pretty solid, eh?
Yeah, it was nice. You know, Elaine's parents showed up, and at 84 and 86, the fact they were able to get up here on their own was very pleasurable because we don't know how many more we got. Not that somebody 54 knows how many they got, but, you know, cherish the ones you love while they're here right with you.
Great stuff for sure, man. And what else you been up to?
Well, we did our show yesterday. I did the show Friday night, hoping to get out for a birthday Bigfoot hunt tomorrow. But, man, we've been getting plastered with snow up here, probably 8 inches in the last 2 days. So a two-wheel drive Malibu isn't going to cut it trying to get back into the forest looking for the imaginary 8.
Yeah, I could see how that might be a little bit cumbersome for sure. And tonight, well, my science team sent me something pretty interesting to dive into because there are, at least that I know of, 8 to 10 of these encounters, stories, whatever terminology should be used for them. Pretty interesting stuff. And yeah, before we kind of dive into it, what's your overall thought of what's occurring during these circumstances?
I think you and I we both got open minds as to what's going on. But to me, it seems like when these kids disappear and then they find them after being gone for 3 or 4 days, you know, but somehow seem perfectly healthy, like something, you know, helped them out. and then at some point decided we need to put this kid where somebody will find him, or these people are going to be all through the woods and somebody's going to find us or shoot one of us looking for these kids. So I almost think it's whether it's helpful or just keep them till you can find people and then get them out of here kind of thing.
Wow. That's some pretty great stuff right there for sure, because that's a pretty interesting twist with, like you were saying, showing that intellect, and then we got to get them out of here. That could be both sides. Maybe the one that originally took them had way darker purposes, but then one of the other ones was like, what are you doing? You're going to draw attention to us, which ties a lot back into the Latin American history and lore, where the white ones or the lighter gray ones with the blue eyes are the females that are docile for the most part and try to interject and keep the males away, because the males are the dark black ones or the ones with glowing red eyes that are trying to always take people. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting twist for sure, eh?
Well, I think if they know if one's missing, that a whole bunch of us are going to go look for them, especially the little ones. So it means way more people in the woods, obviously carrying some sort of protection, if you will. And I don't mean condoms, but for a lot of pew-pews that could possibly, take one down by just mistake or pure luck, depending on which end of the pew-pew you're on. But so if they keep it safe until people are close by enough where they can leave the kid, then they just, put him like in Carolina, stick him in a thorn bush where he isn't going to go too far, and wound up being found after 3 days and 2 nights in freezing temperatures, yet the kid's perfectly fine other than a few thorn scratches.
That's some pretty interesting stuff, and I feel that would be way more Sasquatch and Bigfoot behavior, in my opinion, than Dogman. I think they would have that potential understanding or nurturing aspect, especially if it was, say, like you had spoken about and we touched base on, if it was Neanderthal based or has some sort of more understanding or a connection to us than, say, an ape or something. Yeah, that's way more logical than something that's described as a raging canine for the most part. What purpose does that or a bear have for holding any sort of human being? That doesn't make sense. That seems to be food source. And I mean, also, there are tales of the Sasquatch taking away people and things. So, I mean, obviously that can occur as well. But out of all the logic right there, that would be the one that would make the most sense to me, I feel.
No, I think not only that, like you said, is, as you phrase, fattening them up. What if they're putting them out there for a lure too? You get 1 or 2 people coming to look, and their odds of, getting the bigger prey while they're looking for the little prey.
Yeah, and I had spoken to a few people about that before, the Hansel and Gretel hypothesis, that I would like to try to bump up to a theory about, everyone should check out the Brothers Grimm. It's been morphed into something that was acceptable-ish for children, but in actuality, that was the horror of the times. Those aren't nice fairy tales like Little Red Riding Hood and such. There are very dark things that occur in that. And the Hansel and Gretel, you have this witch or woman out in the woods that is taking these children, feeding them candy and everything to, yes, fatten them up to then consume them. So it's a pretty dark twist to think about. But yes, like on Thanksgiving or things, or just in general when we cook, what do we do? Or what do people do when they raise their animals and such? I mean, yes, you're essentially fattening them up and adding flavor to what you're eventually going to consume. So, I mean, in a few of these cases too, when these children are found, and they're asked, why didn't you scream out for help when we were yelling for you? The children respond with, well, Mr. Wolf or Mr. Bearman was very angry and hit me or bit the hat off my head. So that doesn't really seem to me like something as if that was a nice encounter. Maybe then they're like, oh crap, if they have the intellect, as to even steal somebody like that, that like you said, oh, more are coming now. Let's just get this thing out of here. But if they're biting the hat off their head and slapping them around because they were crying and wanting to leave as such, that just sounds to me like, yeah, keep eating till I eat you, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a whole different tale on that one, because now you're telling them, you know, keep quiet. I don't want them to find you. Yeah, if it's being by punishment, then that's a whole nother story of whether or not it's friendly, because like you said, they're just fattening them up and giving them the right food for the seasoning, just like you do, feed cows a certain thing and your chickens, and so you get a certain flavor to them. That's what they're doing to the kids.
And see, like, that may seem dark, but again, the problem is that's dark from the human perspective. From an animal perspective, I don't know how many times I have to reiterate this. When you're out in nature, you're on the menu. I mean, it doesn't matter if your best friend beside you, you have spent your whole life with them. That bear doesn't give a crap about any of that stuff, okay? And that doesn't make the bear evil. That has nothing to do with it at all. The bear's purpose is to eat and then move on to what it needs to do next. We put the spin on it as, oh, no, that's heartless by the bear. It has no soul in its eyes. That's a human twist of things, dude. You're no different than the deer. You're actually way easier, so.
Yeah, isn't it weird how we put as you said, a dark spin on it, but it's the exact same thing we do.
I know. Ironic, huh? Calling the kettle
Yeah,
black much, right?
exactly. That's what I mean. It's, monkey see, monkey don't do.
That's just what I mean about presenting things, okay? And just trying to show their perspectives, because it just really boils back down to, like I've said before, my cousin when I was younger, being a very successful forensic crime scene investigator, he had always told me there's three sides to each story: yours, theirs, and then the truth. You just need to logically ask things and present things like that, because I mean, it's not like it's an illogical question or irregular to ask that. For example, I'm a big fan of Cody Lundin, and I'm always watching, survival stuff just in case you never really know what you're put into, and people try to troll him for no shoes. Well, I mean, sure, if you're walking around like Walmart and places like that, but if you're around where he lives and you're out doing survival things out in the world and nature, what's the problem with being barefoot? There's studies that show people's feet that were barefoot are way healthier than people that are wearing modern day shoes. Also, at the moment, still 50%, if not more, of the world's population is barefoot. And for hundreds of thousands of years, people have been barefoot. So what's the problem with being barefoot? So that's just kind of what I mean about the whole perspective aspect of it. Because one person will think it's bizarre, but in actuality, it's not bizarre.
Yeah, just like when you pointed out tonight that they're fattening them up, that had never crossed my mind. So it's, but it does make sense at the same time. So, fortunately, you and I are both open-minded and go, oh, wow, hey, you know what? That's not only possible, but probable.
I just try to, like I said, be as logical as possible. And I mean, if people are seeing these things and something's taking something, well, that has to be a physical entity, whether it's an animal that we know or we don't know. And at the end of the day, for anything, and even if it's more advanced, I mean, again, the Sasquatch, okay? I mean, listen to the indigenous cultures speak about that. Again, they have a bunch of tales of them taking women and children. Why do these women and children never come back? I mean, are they being held captive there or something, which still isn't good? Or are they being eaten? Still isn't good. So, I mean, moral of the whole thing is if something in the wilderness is taking you, that's not a good thing. I mean, I just think, like you said, that these children are getting lucky, and B, they are also maybe luckily being saved by, even if it's, the dogman, like I said, the female that's saying get him out of here, or like the Sasquatch that's like, what are you doing, you bozo, you can't just be taking this kid, and then same thing, they put them out there. But even with the Dennis Martin case, where was it a Neanderthal man wearing furs? Was it a Sasquatch? Was it a bear man? Or was it a dog man? What took that kid? Either way, though, he never came back. What purpose is, how old was that kid? Pretty dang young. So what purpose does he serve at, of anything, to a wild Neanderthal, to a bear man, to a Sasquatch, to a dog man, except for a food source? Why did he never come back?
There was a family camping, though, and within just a very short timeline, Dennis disappeared, saw an upright Neanderthal either wearing fur or, Bigfoot or just Neanderthal, who knows, whatever it was upright and hairy, carrying something over its shoulder. So we know something took him. So those are the ones I think, are probably predation. I think you've got your good ones. I think you got your bad ones. I think you got the ones that are in between. Maybe it was, and predation is the most likely one. Let's just say that. I'm going to put that out there right now. But at the same time, maybe a mother lost her kid and she sees a cute little kid and thinks, oh, I'll replace mine with him, and snatches him up and takes off. But, when the ones you hear about, and it's mainly Bigfoot, I haven't heard too much Dogman walking kids back to camp and pointing the way. Once you hear about the kid being lost, and then, giant hairy one walking them back, pointing, showing the way, and then the kid walks 50 yards and he's back at his camp.
Which sounds to me more like something, per se, that a dolphin would do over, say, a great white shark, meaning I'm making the comparison of the dolphin being more, Bigfoot related, and the great white being, like, say, a dog man. Like, I just don't think a great white shark ever is taking anybody back to shore on their back and rescuing them, where some lucky SOBs have had that happen, where a dolphin has taken them, or a whale, back to shore. So
yeah, you hear about the dolphins, basically trying to the swimming around the people to warn them of the shark, and even attacking the shark to try to help the human out, which is pretty wild. But at the same time, you're not going to see a great white shark grab a hold of a kid because he was in the area and take off and get him back to his boat.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't work like that. There's different, like I said, levels of intellects, where if someone was to tell me that some sort of, primate, like an orangutan or something, took a baby and was being nice and trying to nourish it, that makes a lot of actually logical sense. And there are scientific aspects and events that would support behavior like that. But again, a bear, come on now. I mean, or this raging canine creature, or we're just going to take this little girl or little boy and we're going to be nice to them. I mean, that doesn't, again, as messed up as it is, like, what type of meat do people usually like? Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't it seem like, isn't it younger turkeys, or like lamb chops, or isn't it like younger cows and things? Isn't that the meat that is more tasteful too? Which again would solidify that they're not taking them to help them. Same thing with, I mean, obviously it's probably easier, but it seems like a lot of bears and things like that prefer younger ones too.
Yeah, not only ease on that part, but they are, especially when you go like deer. I mean, it's cool to pop a big, 18-point buck, but the meat sucks. It's pretty much jerky before you even get into it. The neck on it when it's in rough is real chewy and gamey, and where you get the single point, there's not as much of it, but it tastes a whole lot better and more tender. And because living in, well, I'm sure they deer hunt where you're at too. I mean, you're up in northeast, so there's probably plenty of deer. Young deer taste way better when you make it into either chops or venison burger.
Again, that's just what I'm saying about being logical about it and understanding, yes, from the human perspective that is dark, but we're not talking about a human perspective. We're talking about a predator's perspective. And I don't know how many times I have to reiterate it. Humans are on a predator's food source. It isn't about them being heartless or wanting to just go around unaliving people. Your food, dude, you're no different than anything else that has been consumed throughout the past, present, and future. It is what it is.
Yeah, and I'm just reading that account you sent me. So do you want me to read it so everybody knows what we're talking about?
I'll get that for us here in a
Oh,
second,
okay.
for sure. I just was also going to say that when it comes to children, their descriptions about things, I stand on both sides, meaning when they describe something potentially that they haven't necessarily seen. So you would hope that no 2 or 3 year old, their parents are showing them a howling movie or something with some crazy looking werewolf, etc. So when they say that they've seen Mr. Wolfman or Mr. Wolf or something, that be a 2 or 3 year old has seen a wolf. I mean, that's not really. I mean, if their parents are showing them ripping it apart or something, but if you've just seen a wolf in a Disney movie or something, okay, you would still know kind of what a wolf's head is and such. But again, it's a little kid, so little kids could tell you that just to get out of trouble that they saw a blue Smurf outside. So, I mean, I guess in theory, if this little kid is outside, knows that their parents don't want them in the woods, but they decide to walk off in the woods, end up getting, kind of lost-ish, and then do luckily find their way back out, right? And then their parents are like, "Oh my goodness, like where have you been?" And they say, "Oh." I mean, they're still a little kid. They know they're gonna get yelled at. I mean, I have a 3 year old niece, dude. She's pretty dang smart, man. Okay, I'm not saying everyone, is at the same intellect, but oh, well, Mr. Bear or Mr. Wolfman just took me out. Oh, I saw Mr. Wolf or something, and then they, that's their story. So I don't know. I stand on both sides because it's interesting, like I said, why a young child that you would hope wouldn't be necessarily exposed to something would describe something that looks to be like a werewolf. But again, we're talking about a 3 year old. So, I mean, there's reasons why 3 year olds wouldn't be considered credible witnesses.
Oh, absolutely. And then not only that, but they've got such a limited frame of reference anyway. So as far
Yeah.
as comparing things, very limited things to reference off of a dog or a bear or a cat.
So they could actually, like you said, even be describing something that doesn't even necessarily look like that whatsoever. It could have been a man wearing, fur or something that then took them. So would that look like a wolf man if they had like a wolf fur on or something? And yeah, that might sound bizarre, but like I talked about, I believe it was with you last night. I mean, there have been reports of where this gentleman was allowed to do this as part of his belief, but he would walk around, I believe, once a week, every couple months or something, and forage for his food while he was dressed up just like our ancestors would be. Well, everyone thought they were seeing like a wolfman or a Bigfoot or something. So, yeah, I could see that as well. Someone was living out in the forest and taking a child and then realizing, I don't know. And that's something that probably should really be looked at as well, because that also seems potentially like something that could fall into the description of that, a wolf man. Well, I mean, if some man was wearing a wolf skin and was living out in the wild and is out there, which we know people like that are and in the past have done, it's just interesting because it's tough to discredit and throw that out because, again, like I said, it's bizarre why this 3 year old or whatever 5 year old is seeing and explaining this. But again, there are some logical kind of explanations that fall into that. And before I read what I had sent you, I just kind of wanted to hear what you thought about that.
No, absolutely. The more you talk about, especially back in the day, people wearing animal skins. They did wear the head as well. If you got a guy with a wolf cap on, or who knows if he's even got the ears, or he's got a jacket on that he made from wolf fur and pants. I mean, to her, that would be, like you said, a wolf man. Absolutely, they could, not lying, but just misidentifying because they don't have anything to compare to.
Yes, and I mean, even people in general misidentify things. Like when I sent you, I believe I sent it to you, the black bear that was walking all around in New Jersey. Unfortunately, he was shot by a hunter up in Pennsylvania and unalived, but it was a black bear that was cruising just all around on his back two legs, all around the area. And well, it looked like some of the pictures that people have sent of Dogman. And then there's a massive grizzly bear where people are on a tour bus that just walks right by, no problem, upright. So, I mean, there's plenty of misidentification with people in general. And it's studies out there. Again, it's science, so people can check it out. But we see what we want to see, especially in certain aspects, meaning if we set out a group of people saying that you were out there looking for Bigfoot, I was out there looking for Dogman. This person has no clue about any of this. We just put them out there. This person is looking for large cats. This person, etc. And then we put us all out there, right? And we potentially do see something or hear something in the forest, but it's just like a picture, like some of the pictures that we all see all the time, right? We get that. So what is it though? Most likely you're going to think it's Bigfoot, right? Because you've already preset your mind to go out there like that. And I'm going to think it's Dogman because I've already preset my mind. But then this other person who has really no clue about any of these things that we just put out there, it's going to be like, dude, I don't really even see anything in that image, or that just seems to be like a coyote or something, etc. You see what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely. You get Bigfoot on the brain or Dogman on the brain, you're already preconceived and think of that's what you're looking for. That's what you're going to find.
And obviously that can't be any different in a child, meaning, like I said, if they just watched like a movie or something, that has a Nightmare Before Christmas has a creepy little werewolf in it. And I mean, I don't know. Everyone's parents are different at the age limit that you would have your child watch that movie. But I mean, it's a child's movie. Is it not considered that, I guess? I mean, again, that's what parents are for. But I still think it's super cool. But it even kind of still creeps me out with the monsters under the bed. I'm the one that wears spiders in my hair. You're like, what the heck, dude?
For a couple of years, when I first watched Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as a kid, it had the abominable snowman in it.
Yes, that scared me too, dude.
Scared me, and then every Christmas Eve, I thought the abominable snowman was going to be behind, so they couldn't put me to bed very well. It wasn't because I was waiting for Santa. It was because I was waiting for the abominable snowman. And then my mom's like, well, he doesn't have any teeth. Well, he'll swallow me whole.
Right? So now think that, per se, if, we'll just use you for an example. Say you had just seen that and then you were outside, and because it was snowing and you seem to have been like me, so even though my parents would have put me to bed, I would have still stepped outside to see if it was snowing and thought it was cool. And if I had just seen Nightmare Before Christmas or something, and the werewolf up in there or such, or you had just seen that, and maybe off in the distance, even though it's later at night, one of the neighbors has to get up and do something, and he or she is wearing a flannel shirt or something, and then I just watch that, and maybe their dog barks, but I can't see that, and I'm a little kid and it's in the snowstorm. I could then just think I saw a wolf man. That's all I'm saying,
Yeah, absolutely. Whether you like to admit it or not, it's already, because there's a lot of times with where I've jumped to Bigfoot and I'm like, okay, big boy, reel it in.
And it's like you said, I mean, it very well could be Bigfoot, and it very well could be something we don't know about. But again, just from the scientific aspect, it is facts that, preconceived ideas are going to change your perspective of something. I mean, if people don't believe it, go do your own science project of putting certain minds out there that already have a preconceived notion about something, and then put people that have no idea about it out there and just watch the differences. Okay. I mean, it is just logic. So we have this encounter though too, which is pretty bizarre and interesting, and it's from, well, my neck of the woods. Yeah, up here in the Northeast. 1774. We have a young girl named Sarah Witcher, ironically, right, became the subject of a remarkable survival story in the wilderness of New Hampshire. Wow. All right. And to everyone that doesn't really understand the Northeast, Maine is the most forested state in the whole entire country, but the Northeast in general has a ton of forests, so it's dense as heck. And even New Hampshire has its decent amount. Well, again, 6 years old, so I mean, we're at the point now where you can have a pretty good conversation. They know right from wrong, and definitely if they're lying or not. I mean, I have a 6 year old niece, and she is, yeah, pretty much a little short adult, she seems to think. So this is pretty much at an age where, all right, the credit aspect of what they know that they're seeing now is definitely a lot better based than a 3 year old. According to her family and her, she wandered away from her home while out with her family, unknowingly getting lost in the dense forest. Well, I mean, again, we have a ton of woods up here, so to anyone that spends time out in the forest, I mean, a tree is a tree, and if you don't know where you're going, I mean, yeah, you're gonna get lost and get to a point where every tree looks like the last tree you saw. So, especially if you are six with no skills out there. Well, she then is not able to be found, so this obviously prompts a massive search for her. A lot of members of the community are there, and obviously her family and such. But after several days, right, they don't find her. So that's not really good. And, well, sadly, most of them are presuming the worst at this point. But suddenly, against all odds, what the heck? Sarah has survived for 4 days in the forest. And the most unusual part of her strange story is with a large black dog. Wait, what? Yeah, that sounds like a Dogman kind of reference right there, which according to her, yes, little Sarah, kept her warm throughout the cold nights. What makes this even stranger, though, is that there are no dogs that are known to live in the area or wolves, and the creature's true nature has always remained a mystery. Some have speculated it may have been a bear or another wild animal, but Sarah's description of the animal is a jet black, dog like wolf creature. When Sarah was finally found, she was unharmed, except for some cuts and bruises, and she spoke of the comfort she had found in the bear's den where she had taken refuge. Well, right there, again, she's kind of changed her story a tad. She said she thought it was a black dog, but now it was in the bear's den. So, I mean, sure, it could be in the bear's den, but her tale of survival continues to captivate people to this day, raising questions about the possible intervention of the unknown animal and the mysterious connection between her and the wilderness that saved her.
Wild stuff. And going back to that, the fact that it was 1774 even limits her range of reference even more as to what kept her warm. I mean, how many?
Yeah, what do you think about all that, man?
I think that's crazy. The fact that it wasn't a bear that kept her warm, it was a big black dog. If it was bear, you could lean toward maybe like a Bigfoot, but big black dog, that's more Dogman, and that would be the first time I think I've heard of a Dogman being considerate of her health instead
Yeah,
of pumping her up.
that's what's
And,
really interesting about that because, like I said, the white ones that are usually female based, that makes sense in the lore, okay? I mean, I'm totally down with understanding that. But yet, the males have never really been described as that. So, could it have been a Skinwalker? Sure, but again, I've never heard of a skinwalker being used in a good way. And could have been a werewolf. Again, that's all occult and satanic type like stuff. Where do we sit with this, man?
Yeah, with a big back dog. You almost think human in furs, but she would have seen his face at some point. And maybe even said dog man, furry dog man. But the fact she left it as just big black dog is one for the I don't know category on this one.
I'm right there with you, especially if it was a person, she would have seen that. The only thing I could really logically think about is, I mean, there are dogs that have been let loose and also have mated and reproduced, whereas I believe coyotes have a high percentage of domesticated dog in them. If you had a dog, for example, that was still recently connected to a domesticated dog, meaning still in its genetic reproduction pool, it understood and recognized people, then she could have just got extremely lucky and found a wild dog or a wolf even in general that had a high percentage of domesticated dog in it, and it didn't find her as a threat. Meaning, I mean, it's no different like in the past when we domesticated wolves, but that took time also. If you were able to domesticate wolves, then they still have that understanding too.
No, and that's good thinking there as well, because I did raise wolf hybrids for several years. And it's not the percentage of wolf you have to worry about, it's how many generations they are out of the wild.
Mm-hmm.
My dogs were 6 generations out, so the pups are 7th generation. So they were just as loving as any dog, domesticated dog you'll find. They still had a little sense in them as far as how far they would run if they got loose. I mean, you got a dog with a 50-mile radius that he thinks is his. So
I could see that easily. I could see that occurring with a 6-year-old, meaning one of those dogs that would happen to be black or whatever. Because I mean, there are black wolves, and they happen to maybe escape or is just reintroduced to the wild, etc. And finding a 6-year-old girl, I could logically see that happening again, because we're talking about science now and the gene pool of where it's still not fully domesticated, but understands that. So I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, but that's the only logical explanation. She either got lucky with a real wolf or uh, domesticated wild dog that was still people privy.
Yeah, I mean, the more I'm trying to think about it as we're kind of getting ready to tie this up, there's just look at a grizzly bear, anybody. I mean, a grizzly bear is not nice to anything, and I don't know, it'd be beautiful to think Winnie the Pooh would just be out there and, be kind to this 6-year-old girl, but it didn't happen in history when a massive short-faced cave bear came across our ancestors and their children, it ate them. So until someone can, well, show me this would occur, it just doesn't seem logical. I mean, a mountain lion, a bear, anything. If you put a child out there, no grizzly bear is not going to eat them. I mean, am I missing something here?
Yeah, and even if you take it a step down to a black bear, the odds of it cuddling with the kid are not good. Maybe not consuming because it's unsure if it was a smaller, but I mean, a big black dog could be a small black bear.
Yes.
Odds are still very low that it's going to cuddle her.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, yeah, grizzly bears are scarier, but I believe it's male black bears are most responsible for predation on humans.
Yeah, I don't know the stats on that one. I know you don't want to get between the mom and the cub. So I mean, that would be even luckier than finding a black dog would be a mom who just lost a cub and let the kid cuddle up. That'd be more like hitting the lottery 3 times in a row.
Yeah, you'll have to look that up, man. Check it out, dude. I'm pretty sure that the majority of people that have been unalived and that they've done the scientific and the crunching on the numbers on, that male black bears are most responsible for stalking people and actually purposely going out of their way to try to capitalize on that. Whereas grizzly bears, it's usually people that literally are just in terrible spots where it has to do like nothing. You're right there to consume you. But there's, black bears that actually are, actively trying to get you in a vulnerable position.
I did not know that, but I will definitely be looking into it now because with all the black bears we have here, my sister's got one coming up and having to push a Ring doorbell.
It's cool and funny and stuff when you see that, but yeah, look into it because also they're losing their fear of people in certain areas, especially down in like New Jersey and Pennsylvania, because they're protected, but we've encroached so much on their area that now their area, the suburbs, are also people's areas. And now, obviously, because they're protected, they're sitting there, feeding out of dumpsters all the time and such. And I've made this reference before when I used to visit one of my girlfriends up at the University of Orono, UMaine. I mean, when I would help her bring out trash and such, and her and her roommate, I mean, when you brought it out to the dumpsters, dude, the raccoons and the dumpster squirrels were literally scary as heck, dude. And now take something like a bear that is accustomed to that. I mean, I was just opening it up, putting the food in there. I'm not trying to take the food away from the squirrel and raccoon, but it looked like they were going to go Freddy Krueger style on you, okay? So same thing now with the bears and things. When they're getting accustomed to that, it's just, yeah, it's really a disaster scenario waiting to happen because sure, commercials like the toilet paper or Charmin or whatever, where you think this bear family is just so nice, or Winnie the Pooh and such. I mean, yeah, it's cool, but dude, needs to be like a reality check here that yes, we got to respect and appreciate nature and things, but at the end of the day, you don't just go out and pet a bear, okay? I mean, there isn't just a family of bears out there using toilet paper, thinking about how soft they are, and just being super cool and having bureaus of jam on their wall, and they're just going to let you eat their porridge. It doesn't work like that, dude.
Yeah, exactly. No, it does not, my friend.
I mean, wouldn't it be nice? I mean, I would love that, okay? And I do obviously think it's cool and such, but I do think there needs to be a reality check on things that, yeah, I mean, things are predators. Even a wild rabbit that's super cool looking. I mean, don't do this, but yeah, go try to pick up a wild rabbit and see how it responds to you, okay? Is it gonna sit down and be like, "What's up, doc?" and offer you a carrot, or is it gonna try to bite you and kick you in the face?
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with the trash pandas. They look cute, but if you get too close, they're gonna go spider monkey all over you.
Yes, exactly. So I just think bringing a little bit of logic to all this is super important. So again, I do appreciate getting to sit down with you twice a week, man, and just talking things and trying to figure out what's going on. So it's definitely excellent. And to the audience out there, if you ever want to hear us talk about anything outside of what I'm trying to cover here on Star Fox Radio, then you do want to pop over to Brian and Grizzly's thread on Saturday nights at 8:30, where we talk about all kinds of interesting things, whether it's World War II history or ancient ancestors, or again, I only speak about things that I feel have some sort of scientific reference and historical references that line up and yeah, that can be considered science. So again, I do appreciate everyone who popped in tonight, but unfortunately, we do need to close the Midnight Society book and let Brian Barber get back to things he needs to attend to as well. But no worries, you will be seeing and hearing us both soon. So yeah, thanks for popping in again, man.
Always my pleasure, my friend.
If you did make it this far tonight, you truly are a legend, and I adore all of you. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Feed the algorithm, and I will catch you very soon.